Here's what really happens when you press upload on your resume. Click, upload. What happens when you press upload on your resume? We're going to talk about that today. There's two key functions that happen, and a lot of people aren't aware of it, so I want to dispel some myths today. Here's what truly happens when you press upload on your resume. Now, it's no secret that today's world we're asked to do more with less. That means less time, less resources, less money. How does that impact you? Well, it could impact your pay for one, which is a sensitive topic, but it definitely impacts the hiring companies out there. They still have a need to hire someone like you, a qualified individual. But what's stopping you from getting that interview? Well, it could be your job application with your resume. I know it's that dirty word once again, resume. I could almost say that on every show. We need to understand what happens to our resume when we press the upload button. And there's two key parts to this, like I mentioned. The first part, we all know what an ATM is, right? It's the place you go to get money for most of us, right? But what is an ATS? ATS in the recruiting world and the career field stands for Applicant Tracking Software or Applicant Tracking Systems. What are they? What are they used for? Years ago, when people had all the free time in the world working for companies, they'd sit by a phone waiting for it to ring. They waited for the fax machine to boot up. Whoa, I'm dating myself. And then spit out a resume. They would then review that resume by themselves. Then the phone started ringing more, so they had to cut the phone off. Then the fax machine started piling up and running out of toner and printer, ink, and paper. So then they had to go to automation, upload it to the cloud, upload it to the web, upload it to an email box, your resume we're talking about. Eventually, we ran out of human resource skills to look at resumes firsthand. Now that ATS plays an absolutely critical role for you if you're looking for your next job, especially a better, higher paying job. That ATS, Applicant Tracking System or Applicant Tracking Software, does a key function for us and for recruiters and hiring companies. It scans your resume. It scans it for credibility and for qualification and quantification, fancy words. So think of it like, if you've watched any of the movies with, was it Arnold Schwarzenegger with the Terminator movies? He's got those red eyes and there's robots and the scanning and all that. Think about that. Zzz, your resume, just like a photocopier used to go across and you see that bright white bar go across. Same thing for your resume with these ATSs. They do it based on software though. And there are so many factors that could cause your resume to not successfully get through an ATS scan. Keywords are an absolutely critical thing that ATS, applicant tracking systems, look for. They want to see that you're not sending in a generic resume. Therefore, you've personalized it to some degree, that you are actually a qualified candidate. If you're using a generic resume, let me tell you right now, stop. You probably haven't been getting many interview offers. And if you have, in one case, a client of mine, he told me, Craig, I submitted about 90 to 100 resumes in the last month or so. I did get 3 or 4 interviews, but you know what? They were all spam-like. They were all generic, multi-level marketing. I had to buy something. I had to spend money up front. So they weren't even looking for the right kind of candidate. They were just looking for a candidate. So of course, he didn't take those interviews. He didn't move forward with any of those companies. However, when he created a resume specific to his job role, specific to his areas of interest, his rate of interview feedback went through the roof. It was crazy. He was getting quality interview offers. The difference was, and you can do this too, the difference was that he created a customized resume so that he was talking to the hiring company, not at them. Right? When you look up that hiring company and find out key information about them, you can then apply that to your resume. And you know what that does? That will satisfy the ATS software we talked about. It will scan your resume, and because yours is somewhat customized talking to that company, it will rank higher than others that send in generic resumes. That automatically bumps you up towards the top of the resume submission pile, rather than getting, say, rejected or a much lower score. Also, ATS systems, they've gotten much better today, and there's different brands out there, just like, we have McDonald's, Burger King, Taco Bell, things like that for restaurants. There's different software companies that make different ATS scanning tools. You and I don't need those tools. It's very important to know they exist, and it's much more important to know what they do and how they work so that you know how to pass that test and succeed when submitting your resume and it gets scanned like that. But you and I don't need to own those tools or rent a license, okay? Just know they're out there. Thinking about them from a point of view, since they're software, we have to be careful because software scanning can get corrupted. It can get, there can become problems when it comes to putting graphics on your resume, putting too many vertical bars, right? That can cause disruption by the scanning process. Just like in the English language, we read top down, and I think for you it's left to right. I got to do it backwards here on camera. The scanning tool does that too as it goes by. And if you have a lot of columnized data, that can cause a problem as well. So just think about your resume format, your layout, and if you're not sure what's right, what's wrong when it comes to an ATS, feel free to go to my website, craigancel.com. That's CRAIGANCEL.com. And you can upload your resume for a courtesy review. I promise I will be the one reviewing it. And I also promise you that I am a human being, I'm not AI. So you'll get real firsthand information on what works today for today's hiring companies, recruiters, and management staff, what they're looking for, and what they dislike about resumes. Next, now that we've talked about the ATS, the applicant tracking system, assuming, that's a dangerous word, assuming that your resume passes that test or ranks higher up and your resume gets the opportunity to go in front of a human being, this is something a lot of people don't know, and this is what I want to make crystal clear to you. It's worth your price of admission today. Resumes get skimmed or scanned by a human being for anywhere from 3 to 6 seconds, and it's much more common for 3 seconds. So saying it differently, your resume only gets 3 seconds, and that's if it passes through the ATS software. It sounds dire, it sounds crazy, but let me explain. Think of your resume as a piece of artwork. All right. And this hiring company has dozens, hundreds, potentially thousands of applicants and resumes coming through. Once they're filtered down to a somewhat manageable pile, likely 5 to 10% getting through that scanner, and even that case, they could take a portion of what passed through the scanner or was higher ranked. Hopefully you're in that top portion. They're going to look at your resume, doing that skimming or scanning. And if you think of your resume as a piece of artwork, you will be in much better shape of getting chosen for an interview than anybody else out there. The skimming or scanning is about visual appeal, number one. What am I saying in not so fancy terms? It's how your resume looks. If your resume is too busy, if there's too much content on there, think about the font size. Did you make the font size really, really tiny because you had so much to put on and you're afraid to roll onto another page? Did you have such little content because you're new to the job world or you're not sure how to fill out a resume that you put a much larger font, large font book, right? What else? The structure. How does your resume look? Is it structured strongly? One thing I will share with you as a bonus tip, think of your resume as, like I said, a piece of artwork, but a framed piece of artwork. Here's your bonus tip. Using the white space, your borders of your resume, those are critical to frame your resume on all sides, all 4 sides. It's critical to use borders and white space properly. If I'm using the word border, it's critical to use your margins, all 4 sides. Envision your margins like a nice white frame, a nice white border around a masterpiece. If you have small margins, if you have inconsistently spaced margins, that can spell trouble. Why? Go back to what I shared with you earlier. Visual appeal. If your resume isn't visually appealing, if it isn't well structured, if it doesn't look good, if it doesn't look pretty, if it doesn't look concise, if it doesn't look organized, you're in for a tough time. Now, you may not believe me, and that's completely okay. These are not my thoughts. These are not my opinions. I've worked with small companies, one-on-one entrepreneurial-based companies, all the way up to Fortune 500. Let me tell you something. In talking to those people, these are their desires, their wishes for a great resume, to read them more easily, to skim them and scan them and make their job much easier to decide who's in and who's out. On top of that, they have a bunch of pet peeves, a bunch of dislikes when it comes to resumes. They share those things with me. Why? Because they know what I do. My point. These companies freely want to talk to me, to talk to career coaching companies once you make a connection. They're looking for the right candidate as quickly as they can find one. Now that you know about ATS, applicant tracking software, applicant tracking systems, knowing that they scan your resume and they look for keywords and they've got to be compatible so that it doesn't get caught up with graphics or, let's say, vertical lines, there's a number of things you have to be cautious of. Now that you know that, you're armed with some more information. Take a look at your resume. If you feel overwhelmed by what I've shared with you, that's not uncommon. However, I'm here and I want to help you if you'd like to work with a career coach. If you'd like your resume reviewed as a courtesy, go to my website, craigancel.com. That's CRAIGANCEL.com, and you can upload your resume for free. I'll be happy to take a look at it and give you a few bits of advice. Thanks so much for listening. I'm career coach Craig Ancel. You've been listening to Career Recovery with Coach Craig. If you find this information helpful, please make sure you subscribe. And if you know someone that's struggling out there or they could benefit from this information, please share. I'm looking to grow this channel as quickly as I can and help more people on this new video platform. Thanks for your time. Always open to your comments. Please let me know below. And if there's something specific you're struggling with, reach out to me at my website, my email, or put some comments below, and I'll see if I can address a special show for you in the future. Thanks so much. Talk to you next time.